Welcome to It's Family Business, the podcast. Join the Burgess family at our dinner table, where we explore the power of connection through stories, laughter, and lessons from life and business. Together, we'll reform the way we think about relationships, success, and growth. Grab a seat and join the conversation.
This podcast is brought to you by Pilates Reformers Australia, your all-in-one solution for Pilates and wellness. If you're looking to invest in commercial or home Pilates equipment, you need to speak to the experts in Pilates. Visit our website at pilatesreformersaustralia.com.au or check us out on social media.
Well, we are here with Chloe and Vickie from the Movement Perspective. Welcome, ladies, to the Family Business Podcast.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Where are you guys located?
Perth, Western Australia.
Lovely. And there's a lovely warm day there today, which is amazing. Just to start with, let's talk about how the two of you met and how the two of you came into being friends to begin with.
Oh, should we tell that story?
We met actually doing our Pilates certification.
Yes.
So
a few years back.
a decade ago.
Is it really?
Yep.
Yeah.
A little bit over 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
We met, doing our training. And do we share the story of when we knew that we were going to be friends?
We had the little catch up for some of the girls that were on the course together. And
It was meant to be a study catch up.
With wine or just actually studying?
Well, that's how it happened. So there was some bubbles involved and some snacks, and there were two parties in particular that enjoyed the bubbles. And
just the two of you, yeah?
Well, I feel like there was this moment where everyone had one glass of champagne and Vickie went to pour a second glass and everyone else said no, and she sort of looked at me and I went, yes, I will be having a second glass.
And the friendship was born. So from that reunion, how did you then go into being into business? Owning Pilates studios was first, correct?
Yeah, that was a bit of a down the road. So we obviously did our training and then stayed in touch with friends. And then Vickie came on to manage another location we had for Breathe. We kind of just escalated from there, really.
I was just doing the odd spot
you were working.
class.
Yeah, she was just coming in and teaching the odd class here and there to start with.
Yeah, because I was working with the massage and and the sports teams. And Chloe was like, I'm opening up a second location. I want a manager.
Yeah, it's I need someone to run it and help grow this with me.
And that was kind of that, really.
Right. And then from there, how did the Movement Perspective come about?
Well, we adore helping as many people as possible. And so we were doing a lot of teacher training as well. So a lot of in-house teacher training.
Yeah, it kind of started almost more teaching and educating instructors. And then we sort of organically found ourselves sort of getting a lot of DMs and answering questions and chatting with other studio owners, and kind of just, we're such open books that we would, if someone had a question, we would always be more than happy to help. And it kind of organically came about, if you will. It actually, what the Movement Perspective was meant to be was, it was meant to be courses for instructors. And then we just, sort of found ourselves more drawn to helping studio owners.
Yeah. I think with the change in the landscape of studios popping up left, right and centre, it becoming much more noisy in that area, and so many studios looking burnt out, not enjoying themselves, really struggling, resenting their businesses.
Themselves.
Yeah, and we're like, we can really help these people, and we don't want to see another studio go down without fighting the good fight. And there's so much that can be done. It's not all lost and found on Instagram. There's so much more to it. So it was kind of almost like a calling. We must help these people.
So how do you go about helping these burnt out instructors that are business owners get back their energies to be able to put it back into their business and continue to grow and move forward?
Yeah, I mean, you said something there that's kind of part of it as well, is everybody's going to have their own path and what's important to them. What sparked for me there when you were speaking is that sometimes in that delivery of being the instructor and the studio owner in itself can be so tricky when you're the one that's teaching all the hours, that's doing all the admin, that's the social media manager, that's the cleaner, that's the babysitter for all your team. All of those hats that we wear, that is a heavy toll to handle. So when we come in we really love to get to know a studio, get to know what their version of success
is,
and what their goals are, because it is going to be different. Some people want to have a heavier teaching load, and so we will try and, how can we make that happen, that we can kind of offset some other things. So having that bespoke approach to studios, and then going from there based on goals, based on their season of business, based on what they're feeling, where they want to go, and then we've got kind of a signature framework that we apply for everybody, where we really focus in on the profitability, having a standout presence, and then the procedures and
So our signature program is called Studio Mastery, and it is a 6-month mastermind program. So it is part kind of group where you get to really feed off the energy of all these other studio owners walking the line beside you. And then it is part bespoke one-to-one, where you get that individual, recommendations and advice that's going to be right for their particular studio and that's going to fit their goals. So it's a unique program where it's got that kind of best of both worlds, and unique as well in the fact that we are still we're in the trenches with the clients that we work with. We have an active studio, and we really, really get it on a deep level.
So what do you think are some of the common mindset blocks that hold back Pilates studio owners?
I think comparisonitis is a really big one, getting stuck in that game of looking what everyone else is doing and comparing yourself to the next person and the next person, and kind of then having this identity crisis and not actually knowing what your brand is and what you stand for and who your client is. I would say that's a huge mindset block, is just getting consumed by the noise in the industry. And
like the studio down the road's doing this, they've copied me, how dare they do that, what am I going to do now?
I'll never be as good as this person, or how am I supposed to compete with that person, or big corporation. I would say that's a pretty big one.
Also that social media envy too, is like they've got 30,000 followers on Instagram and I've only got 1,000. Like, who cares?
And that's just vanity metrics. Like a studio could have 30,000 followers on Instagram and be barely breaking even.
Yeah, correct.
It's vanity metrics. The followers are just that. It's all about vanity. It doesn't actually contribute to profitability. I would say another mindset would be imposter complex, and that self-doubt and thinking I can't do it, or I don't have the skills or the knowledge to lead a team, or I'm just a Pilates instructor, I don't know anything about business. I think that would be another big mindset block that we help clients shift through.
Yeah. And so what would be, I suppose, some quick little hints or tips that you would usually, advise people on to sort of get past that mindset, if you are feeling a bit stuck on, looking at your competitors too much and things like that?
I think a good one for me that I always come back to is it's not so much about you. In some regards it is, but if we get clear and clarity around what are we all in this game for, and that's to help others, isn't it? So if we don't show up, if we're not putting ourselves out there, we are actually then doing a disservice to the very people that we're wanting to help. Because if we're not out there telling them how they can get out their own way to come and do a class and enjoy movement and do regular movement, because we all know how important that is, and everybody on your podcast will be nodding away with this one. But sometimes we forget that part, and we get in our own way, and we're like, oh, I can't, go out in front on camera, or I can't say that, or I can't tell them about my offer. But ultimately, you're then letting down the person that needs to hear, come into my studio, I'm going to look after you, and we're going to do some movement. That it gets to be that simple, and sometimes we can, add on all these layers, confusion, imposter syndrome, labels, all of the anxieties and everything. But if we pull it back
to what is the purpose and
why are you doing what you are doing?
What kind of business am I in? And kind of pulling it back, stripping back all the bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's
You can, that's fine.
And it's okay to be you. It's okay that you're the studio that has videos and kiosks. It's okay. It's okay if you're not that. It's okay if there's another studio down the road, because there are a lot of people in this world and we can serve so many, and not every single one of those people are our people. We're going to gel with different. There's space for everyone. People learn in different environments and respond differently to different instructors and people.
I think a really good exercise is kind of going through our client avatar model and getting really beyond crystal clear on who is the client that you're serving. No, not just women aged 30 to 55. That's not refined enough. That's not precise enough. We want to give this person a name, an occupation, a whole backstory. They're like a character in your life. And I think when you start to connect with who you are serving, you start to also kind of take that rejection or that no to a sale a lot less personally. Like, take your emotion, take yourself out of it and go, okay, they're not my client. That's okay. We're going to move on, because they're someone else's client. They're going to go somewhere else and be amazing there. And I'm going to just focus on who I'm serving. And when we sort of think about it like that and become okay that not everybody's actually going to be your client. And also thinking about just even, I find this really useful when it comes to that whole comparisonitis or fear of competition. When you just think practically about it, right? If you go, okay, in my studio, I really have the capacity to serve 300 members. And in the immediate, within a 10-minute drive of my studio, there are 200,000 people. I can only reach 300 out of 200,000 in my studio. You're like, oh, okay. So it really doesn't matter that there's 2 minutes down the road. We're okay.
Very true. And when they become clear about their avatar, they will, of the 200,000 that are there, you're now narrowing that field down to 20,000, and now you only want 300 of that 20,000. So it makes it clearer for the person, for the mindset, the why they're doing that, who they're doing it for, and then how that's going to work for them effectively.
Yeah, people would get a little bit nervous on that one with the refinement of who they're actually delivering to. So when we talk about marketing, if we're speaking to somebody to the point that they're nodding along, that's me, I'm putting my hand up, they're speaking to me, that's what we want for our marketing. That's how we get to find our tribe and our group, and they get to find us. And that's how we make true connections.
And I think just because you've narrowed your avatar down to a woman named Susie who's 46 years old and has 2 children and a husband and a dog, and she works part-time as an office manager, it doesn't mean that Rebecca, who's a 22-year-old uni student, isn't going to come to your studio. It just means that you're able to refine your marketing and your messaging to be so on point that it is going to be so capturing and engaging for the right people to stop scrolling and follow you, message you, buy from you.
Correct. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, 100%. And so is there a lesson that maybe you've learned the hard way about business that you now reflect on and use when you're consulting and teaching others?
Yes, many lessons, always. And that's a good way to look at it. They're always, while Chloe's thinking, there's always lessons in everything. And if you think about them as being opportunities to find the gaps that you can then refine that customer journey or modify that, it's such a great practice to be repeating, is reflecting on how could I improve that situation? How could I learn from that situation? And there's been a few.
I feel like a big one comes around pricing and profitability, pricing myself and just pulling like a figure out of thin air and not having it based on data and facts and profit margins and knowing all of my expenses and numbers and things like that. And similar on the theme of pricing is not having a strategy behind it, not having a very clear customer journey, and that kind of ascension of, okay, the client starts here, then they can go to this, there's an ascension model on the memberships. And then with that is running too many sales for the sake of running a sale and not having an intention or a strategy behind the sale, not setting like a goal or an outcome of what I'm hoping to achieve out of a sale.
So what happened when you ran the sale and you had too many sales? Like, what happened to you in that lesson that you learned?
They come to expect it. If you're just constantly running sales. I remember this was pretty early on in like
2015, 16.
Yeah, like maybe been open for like maybe 1 to 2 years, and just run sales all the time because I'd be like, oh my God, look, I made all this, like, I've made all these sales. Like, it'd be an Easter sale, like oh my Saturday sale, like everything. And then I remember hearing, and it was actually in a Facebook community group, someone had recommended the studio, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I saw all these comments, and then there was one comment that really stuck out to me, and it wasn't a bad one. It was great. They were like, oh, Breathe is fantastic. Plus, they do sales all the time, so just wait until they have a sale and then buy. And I was like, that's not what I want to be known for. And then there was a couple of comments in the studio like, oh, like, when's your next, like, clients would ask, like, when's the next sale? And that's when I was like, something's got to change. Plus, I was like, had all these members, had all these, like, classes were booked, but I still wasn't making any money. And I'm like, something's like, the math ain't mathing. What's going on? And then that was a big trigger to go, okay. And then I really dug deep into expenses versus operating capacity, looked at like what I was charging to cut, and like I was like, holy crap, I need to make some big changes. And then that like changed the game of the studio.
Become a geek to your data, because that is the biggest load off emotionally.
And I'm not saying to never run a sale or never run a promotion, but we don't ever run one now without there being a very specific reason, and not even just like for the actual sale itself, for what happens after the sale. What's the follow-up going to be? If you're running a sale on your intro offer, what's the plan to keep those intro offers? Or if you're running a sale on a class package, what's the plan to keep that class package person purchasing again and again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very true. Your numbers are your business. And so now that you know your numbers, you're in a better position now to make informed decisions about where you want your business to go and what you want to do with that information that you've been given.
Yeah. Yep. And it's still learning all the time. There's so many variables that come in. So that's why when we go back to that piece about talking about reflecting on everything, like, when did you offer that sale? How did you offer it? Who did you tell? What was the open rate? Was there other things going on competing with? How many people on after that? It all forms a picture. Maybe the sale was exactly the right sale, but it was the wrong product. People weren't quite interested in that style of product. They wanted something different. So there's lessons always. Be reflective, be curious. I think that's a big one. We're very curious in what we do.
Yep, very true, very true. We found an amazing statistic which I'd like to share with you. So it says here, according to the Harvard Business Review, that around 70% of business partnerships eventually fall due to misaligned values, communication breakdowns, or a lack of structure. So with that in mind, what do you think is your secret to your partnership?
I'm going to say communication, like pretty open communication. And I feel like we know each other well enough that, like, if Vickie seems funky, I'm like, what's going on? Tell me what's happening. And, like, likewise. But then we also know just, like, when to, like, let each other be a little bit.
It's taken practice.
Yeah, it's definitely taken time and practice.
I think with having two very passionate people come together, there is a little bit of a power dynamic sometimes that happens there. And letting go a little bit of ego and control as well. Like, now the trust that we have between each of us, that we will have the right decision, that we both have each other's best interests at heart as well. I think trust is huge.
Trust is a big
one.
We
were very good friends before we got into business together. We're quite I was about to say mature, but immature in other ways. Our work ethic is very similar.
Very similar, yeah.
In fact, we almost have to tell each other to pull back. That's our biggest issue.
I feel like our biggest issue is telling each other actually to pull back a bit and stop.
Stop what? Stop coming up with ideas or stop taking control?
Like, pull back a minute, you finish for the day, go home.
Right, okay, yeah. No more ideas. I can't action that one just yet.
But communication, you said it right. Communication is huge. Having trust that you can communicate what you want and also learning yourself a little bit more. Like we've done through our own coaching, personal development has had to come hand in hand with where we're at now compared to when we started, how it's grown from there, and it will continue to grow.
Like an openness to learn. Like Vickie and I are never going to be people that think we know everything, or like we love to learn and we always think there is something to learn. So I think having that like openness to always be looking to improve or being a little self-aware as well, and go, oh, okay, like I don't know if I handle that situation very well. So let's reflect on that. Or
So you have a disagreement and the both of you go away and go, let me reflect on that. Is that what happened?
There's some conversations that might be a little bit heated, but we know each other well enough now that we can say, I don't get where you're coming from with that. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Like I'm a bit confused. I'm not quite sure I'm understanding your vision. Can you I feel myself getting a little flustered here. Can we just take a step?
Amazing.
I think I've said that to you before. Like I can feel myself getting frustrated and I don't want to be getting frustrated. So this is what's going through my mind right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this what you mean?
Is this what you mean? And you're like, no, not at all. Okay, right.
So do you each have sort of like clearly defined roles in the business, or is there still a lot of crossover in, or do you steer clear to not step on each other's toes too much?
Yeah. In Breathe, in the studio, very, very clear
defined roles.
Very clear. I know exactly what Chloe's doing. She knows exactly what I'm doing. In TMP, so the movement perspective, we're still, I think, because we are both in that client delivery.
We're both on the client delivery.
Because we also have slightly different viewpoints as well sometimes. It's good to have both. We're like a yin and a yang in some aspects. So when we're on the group coaching calls and stuff, it's really good to like bounce off both of us.
So that's really important for our clients to have both of us as coaches. So there's crossover there with the client delivery, but then there's elements on the back end that are like, okay, that's a Vickie job, that's a Chloe job. We're still kind of ironing some of that clear differentiation out, but naturally I think there's always going to be that bit of crossover when it comes to client delivery.
Yeah, awesome. What's one thing that you've learned about yourself personally, having been in this partnership together?
I have learned that I think, a lot more compassionate and understanding than I ever thought that I wouldn't, not that I'm not a compassionate person. What she's saying
is that I have boundaries.
No, I think that, when you do work so closely with somebody, naturally, things are going to happen. So I think, patience, compassion, understanding. I would never have potentially used those words to describe myself before, but I do now. And I feel like that's actually just in the nature of the business that we're in as well. So not even just in a partnership, but just with clients too.
Yeah.
I've always been more of a tough love gal. And
you can't take Chloe's answer, Vickie. You have to come up with something that you've learned specifically for you.
What have I learned about myself? I work too hard. I worry a lot. I could back off a bit. I can learn a lot from Chloe as well. Yeah, so that's my thing that is a work in progress.
So you'll both work very hard in a studio, plus the movement perspective, which is like a mentoring, helping business studio owners. You're also married with children. How do you then balance all of that together?
I have one singular child.
I have just my husband. As well.
He's still a child, just in a different way.
Yeah. I think that's where boundaries really come into play. Like, I feel like it's a constant work in progress.
Constant work in progress, for sure. And there are times where, what's her name, Brene Brown, did something that I think a lot of us might have seen because it went viral for a bit. That like, when you're coming together, I've got a solid 20 and you need to be
like, I've got
to bring that 80 or we're both
at a 20. Okay, shit.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
we communicate probably better with each other than we do with our own partners.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know, we spend more time.
We spend more time with each other than we do that. But I think it comes down to, I know I've said communication a lot. I think communication, boundaries, I think having really strict boundaries with yourself when it comes to work. I think having a child has definitely taught me that. There's no option anymore for me to just stay at the studio and work through to, 6, 7, 8 p.m. I have to leave because I have to go and, so having, I guess, that as a clear boundary, which I think is something that Vickie is still learning. Yes. I'm like, okay, when I'm packing up to leave, yeah.
You're leaving at the same time Vickie as Chloe walks out the door, is that right?
Yeah. So I think it's just like, having boundaries, having good, clear communication. I also like to sometimes bookend my day with a walk or something. So something I'll often do is I'll go and pick my son up and then get home, and as much as sometimes I just want to like get dinner started and do all that, I will pop him in the pram, grab the dogs and go for a walk and kind of use that to like
decompress from the day.
Compress and like get out of work mode and into like mum mode and family mode and
I think
de-stress.
You have to make the commitment to yourself as much as you commit to everything else. Yeah. I think as Pilates instructors, naturally we're all people pleasers and givers, and we'll think nothing of giving. It's much harder to be as disciplined with yourself and give to yourself. Yeah. So it is a constant battle. You do need to have a word with yourself every now and again.
I feel like that's something that we kind of implemented over the years. We started to then have more boundaries of like work talk, like, okay, no work talk, no work messages after a certain time of the day. Notifications for anything work related go off. Over the weekend, no work messages. So at all, nothing going on. So we've got that like designated time off. And again, like notifications, setting, them for certain times in, our Slack notifications, which is like our work
communication channel. Yep.
So, having that, so that way there's no noise, like blocking out that noise. So that there's no option, to.
You have to give yourself downtime because you just can't show up.
And be 100% every single time.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of Pilates instructors, yoga instructors are the same, even fitness people are exactly the same. They all fall into the same boat. That, like you said, they're very good at giving to everybody else and teaching everybody else. But for their own personal workouts, it kind of like becomes non-existent after a period of time. And I personally had to go, okay, I am booking in this day, this time, every single week so that I know that I can actually do my own personal practice and, make sure that I know. Do you have a time when you book that in for both of you?
Yeah. I feel like that was the quick answer.
Yes.
That's good.
We are like making time for our own movement.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that everybody lacks. They lack as a movement person to actually book time in for your own movement.
Yeah, that's a big non-negotiable
for me. I think people
for
forget also from the studio owner hat how important it is to show your clients you in that space for connection and for community. So not only your own self-practice, we all know mentally, physically, of course. And for clients to see you in there moving and how your body moves, because we all have different ways, don't we? Scoliosis, or we will flex better, or we can't extend. Like that's really good for clients to see and witness. You struggling and you having a different body that doesn't look the same as every other body. And you having a grumble and
and a sweat and a struggle.
Giving some grief to the instructor as well. They enjoy it, and it just helps to increase your community engagement as well. And being able to chat afterwards and go, "Oh, that was a hard one," or it instantly changes your dynamic with your community. So not being a ghost to that, you miss out on a huge amount, not just for your physical, mental self.
Okay, so usually to finish with, when we have guests on, we give you 3 quick rapid fire questions. So
we don't do rapid.
You're gonna try. So firstly, who from your family is your biggest supporter?
My husband.
My husband, yeah.
You can elaborate a little bit.
No.
You happy with that? Happy with that?
It was rapid fire.
Okay,
Husband,
okay.
done.
In your opinion, what is the most important thing for a successful business?
Stay curious, be playful. Get out of your own way.
Love it.
Yeah.
And if you could offer people one takeaway that you have learnt about being in business, what would that be?
Know your numbers. I know it's so generic and boring, but like literally get to know what is your expenses, like what does it cost you just to open the door, regardless of how many clients you have, and what's your operating capacity, so how many clients can you fit in the door.
Vickie, do you have the same thing or something different?
I was going to say something different, but then it went out of my head when you asked. A lot of things don't matter as much as you think they do. And just enjoy it. Go for it. Be you.
Love it.
Yep,
I think
very good. I think you're right there too. Both of you are correct, actually, because I know when we do talk to businesses, it's like, do you know what your break-even point is? And a lot of people don't even know what that figure is. And they don't pay, like you said before, they don't pay themselves enough money. They haven't factored that into their expenses. They haven't factored that in. They haven't even paid themselves superannuation. They haven't even factored that into their figures either.
And I think just touching on that, just for your listeners there's no shame on that. If you're listening in and you're like, shit, I haven't paid myself, I don't know my
That's
figures.
okay. Most people.
It's we all evolve as we run business. If we've talked about figures today or data and you've gone, shit, go and have a look. Start now.
That's right.
Start now because it will really help you.
Very true. And then to go to your point, Vickie, I know one of the things that I struggled with was trying to be a perfectionist. You can't be perfect in everything that you do in business. There's got to be a leeway where you've got to allow things to go. So don't worry, as you said, don't worry about everything. Just allow things to go.
Yeah.
Done is better than perfect.
Correct.
That's part of business.
And I will hands up for all those that are listening to the podcast. That's irrelevant. And my hands is up right now. Still work in progress.
Yeah.
Always.
Work in progress. And be gentle with yourself.
Very true.
God.
Yep. That's why you have to have bubbles at the end of every day, right?
You've got some birds in the back. Nice.
That's fantastic. Thank you, ladies, both, for an amazing podcast and conversation about business.
And if our listeners wanted to get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to go about that?
Best way
DM on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. So at the.movement.perspective. That's us. If you get lost along the way, message Cheryl and she'll redirect you.
Yeah. 100%. I know the names.
Or come to the expo. Although I do think we're sold out.
I think our session's sold out.
But we'll be around.
That's all right. There's a waiting list.
Okay, get on the wait list. Happy to chat all things. Don't be a stranger. Don't be shy. Please do not suffer in silence. There is a lot that can be done. So just reach out with a DM.
Yep. Very true. Yep, there's never a lost cause.
That's right.
Ever. Fantastic, ladies. Thank you so much for the amazing interview, and we look forward to meeting everybody again on It's Family Business. Bye, girls.
Thanks, girls.
Yeah.